Shameless is a show that caught me off guard. From the very first episode, I had to pause and look around because what the hell was going on? Especially in the early seasons, the show felt so real and raw that some scenes felt so intimate, I felt like I was invading by just watching.
You could have gotten Carl killed. You tried to get Ian into the army? You promised me.
And then you'd have other scenes that felt like a straight up fever dream. It was a ride.
What's up, my dudes? How you feeling?
Hey, what's up? Chillin'.
Word on the yard is we all bouncing after fourth period and posting up at your crib.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yo, I heard you got that recording studio and whatnot. You wanna let your boy get up on the mic?
I went into it blind, not expecting much, but it caught my heart. The characters, the storylines, the acting. I have so many thoughts, but I'll save those for a full recap of the show. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see, because I think I'm going to start working on it soon.
He's had a kidney removed.
They stole his goddamn kidney?
No!
I know you fucking lying, bitch!
But anyways, today we're here to talk about Fiona Gallagher, one of the most complex characters television has ever given us. When we first meet Fiona, she isn't just an older sister, she's a surrogate parent. At around 20 years old, she's shouldering the immense burden left by her parents, Frank's alcoholism and Monica's abandonment. We throw the term mother around often, but Fiona was literally mother.
Monica wasn't up to it. You stepped in and helped. Thanks.
I did it all, Frank.
Well, that helps you sleep better.
For 9 seasons, we watched Fiona juggle minimum wage jobs, relationships, and keeping her 5 younger siblings fed and out of child protective services. Her character is defined by the single crushing theme of sacrifice. She dropped out of high school to raise her family, trading her own dreams for their survival. Her arc was a desperate, lifelong struggle to reclaim the individual she sacrificed for the collective. Beyond the drama, there's a profound psychological depth to Fiona's journey, one that resonates with anyone who's felt that burden of responsibility. So imagine my surprise when I see people often shitting on her, labeling her as selfish, a martyr, or a saboteur, when the truth is far more nuanced. I think people often forget that she was the only functional adult for years, even as a child. Her siblings had the luxury of making catastrophic mistakes and still having Fiona to fall back on, while she had no one. Granted, she wasn't perfect, but who is? And how could someone in her position be expected to be? She was just a traumatized person doing her absolute best in an impossible situation, and it seemed like she got punished for not performing miracles. She was human, deeply flawed, and shaped by a world that demanded she grew up too fast. For some, like me, she was the heart of the show, the glue that held the Gallagher family together for years, while for others, she was selfish, destructive, and irresponsible. But when we judge Fiona only by her mistakes, we miss the much larger truth. Those mistakes don't make her a villain, they make her a survivor. So today, get comfy as we dive deep into the messy, complicated, and utterly captivating world of Fiona Gallagher. We're going to be breaking down Fiona's journey from parentified sister to self-destructive adult and try to understand the psychology behind her often frustrating but always compelling choices. And most importantly, we're going to respond to every argument that tries to paint her as a villain. This is my defense of Fiona Gallagher. Okay, let's talk about it.
He doesn't even know who you are. I'm his mother. You are my mother too.
In order for me to properly defend Fiona, I think it's important to have a recap of her character arc so we fully understand her. If you've seen the show recently, or you feel like you don't really need a recap, you can skip this section and just go to the next part using the timestamps in the description. Raised in extreme poverty on the south side of Chicago, with an alcoholic, narcissistic father and a bipolar absentee mother, Fiona begins the series as the de facto head of the Gallagher household, after both her parents have just proven unable to take care for the kids. At 16, she dropped out of high school and took on the full custody of her siblings' day-to-day needs, paying the bills, maintaining the house, cooking, and just working multiple jobs to keep the family alive.
I'd like to report a negligent situation. 6 kids living in squalor, no parental supervision.
When Frank reports to the family that he's low-key abandoned and not taken care of, I may add, to Child Protective Services, she makes things official and gains legal guardianship of her siblings. From season 1 to 3, her life revolved around financial survival and building her life with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Jimmy/Steve.
Turkey and eggs?
With mashed potato pancakes and cranberry jelly.
Back to being a legal resident around here, Steve?
Jimmy. His name's Jimmy now. Steve was just an alias he used to lie to me about who he really was.
Ooh, not cool, Jimmy Steve.
As with any couple, they had their ups and downs, but all in all, things were going pretty well for them. They were building a future until his secret lifestyle of helping a drug lord's daughter gain US citizenship via marriage caught up to him, and then he disappeared, leaving Fiona without a chance to explain or even say goodbye.
Can I just make one phone call to Fiona, please?
Season 4 then centers on Fiona's first real attempt at building a life for herself. After things end with Jimmy, Fiona starts dating Mike, her boss at a first white-collar job. And for the first time, her life is stable and forward-moving. She has a steady paycheck, health insurance, a 401k, and the possibilities of a future that isn't defined by crisis. She finally has the space to think about what she wants, and she begins to slightly separate herself from the constant Gallagher chaos.
We're all addicts, Fiona. Just trying to fill a void. Some of us are just better at hiding it. Right?
But because this kind of stability is unfamiliar, Fiona reacts the way many people with chaotic upbringings do. She sabotages it. She cheats on Mike with his brother Robbie, whose reckless, addictive lifestyle mirrors the instability she grew up in. This triggers the beginning of her first downward spiral, and in one of the darkest moments of the series, accidentally leaves out cocaine in the home, leading to her baby brother Liam ingesting it. Fiona is then arrested for felony child endangerment and serves a brief jail sentence.
Sort your shit out.
After her release, she loses her job. She's placed under house arrest with an ankle monitor and mandatory drug testing. Eventually, she's offered a position at Patsy's Pie, which is kind of like a diner, and it's a chance for her to start over and rebuild her life from the ground up.
Don't be taking advantage of me because we're friends.
Sorry, boss.
In season 5 and 6, Fiona continues trying to stabilize her life, but her progress is constantly disrupted by chaotic relationships and a shifting family dynamic as the Gallagher kids become more independent. In season 5, Fiona impulsively marries Gus, a musician she barely knows, after a sex-filled weekend, in an attempt to hold onto the feeling of normalcy and belonging. But when Jimmy returns unexpectedly, and unnecessarily, I may add, she falls back into old patterns and cheats on Gus.
Jesus! Where the have you been?
I'ma just scoot on over and let you whack him. Get him again. Get him for me.
For the most part, I was really invested in their love story and was genuinely rooting for them. So I'm not sure if it was the show's writing that destroyed his character or if that was who he was always supposed to be, but something ain't adding up. But at this point, she's clearly outgrown whatever she had with Jimmy, and they end things for good.
You take care of yourself. Whatever the hell your real name is.
At the start of season 6, after cheating on her husband for a second time with her Patsy's Pie boss Sean, Fiona attempts to build something stable with him as he appears supportive and grounded. The relationship gives her another glimpse of a life with consistency and shared responsibility, and she begins to imagine a future with him. To her, Sean is the midpoint between chaos and reliability, someone damaged enough to understand her trauma, but strong enough to support her. Meanwhile, the family home is nearly lost due to gentrification pressures and increased tensions on the south side, adding more instability to her already strained life.
You thought any more about that assistant manager job?
Okay, I'll do it.
Despite the turmoil, Fiona throws herself into work at Patsy's Pie and takes pride in her growing responsibility there. She tries to take control of her future again, but is interrupted by the chaos of her family.
We're both knocked up. She wants to keep hers. Ian hates my guts. Carl is like turning into a criminal, and I'm like...
Between Debbie's pregnancy, managing Ian's bipolar, and Lip's self-destructive behavior puts Fiona in a position where she's the villain for wanting them to have a future she worked so hard to give them, a future she felt she didn't have the option of having. This causes major conflicts inside the family, especially between Fiona and Debbie.
Frank is the only person who thinks this pregnancy is a good idea. You have Frank on your side.
And that should bother you.
Just when things appear to be improving, Fiona discovers that Sean is still actively using heroin, despite insisting that he's been sober. Their planned wedding collapses when his addiction is exposed in front of the whole family by Frank.
Is it true?
This revelation shatters what she hoped would finally be her stable relationship and leaves her emotionally exhausted and disillusioned. She has spent years trying to build a future outside of crisis, but it seems like every attempt has been interrupted, either by chaos in her romantic life or by the never-ending needs of the household. By the end of season 6, Fiona is burnt out, financially drained, and disconnected from the family she has spent her whole life holding together.
I took the GED so you would stay in school. I waitressed my ass off so that you could go to college and drink yourself sick. The past 10 years, I've taken care of every single Gallagher in this family except one. I'm done.
At the beginning of season 7, Fiona makes a decisive break from her old patterns. She stops prioritizing romantic relationships and steps back from the Gallagher household, choosing to focus on herself for the first time in her life. It's like she detaches from everything emotional and pours herself into her work. And honestly, I don't blame her.
And just so we're clear, I am just as likely as anyone else in this family to make something of myself. And it's about time you got that, you arrogant shit.
I know that's right.
I low-key hated how much of an arrogant prick Lip was to her. I felt the utter lack of disbelief in her making something of herself. That would have been hurtful. Because she sacrificed her life for those ungrateful kids, and them not expecting much of her must have been inspiration for her to work her ass off and prove them wrong, and I was just so glad it worked out. Season 7 and 8 follow Fiona's shift from pure survival to attempting true independence, and these years mark her highest success. She takes full control of Patsy's pie, now that Sean's gone, and demonstrates real business leadership, turning it around. She eventually buys a local laundromat with the intent to renovate and turn it into a profitable business. The investment is risky, but it's the first major step in building something that belongs to her. It proves to be a success, and she ends up selling it and making an impressive profit.
I sold the laundromat.
How much you lose?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I didn't. Once I pay off the mortgage and pay Etta back for the improvements, I'll have 75 grand.
She uses the profits to purchase an entire apartment building, becoming a landlord and for the first time, someone who isn't living paycheck to paycheck. While she continues to work at Patsy's, she develops a sense of self outside of being the caregiver, and her confidence grows. For a brief period, Fiona truly evolves into the stable adult she's tried to be her entire life. But unfortunately, this shift in the household dynamic creates new conflict. As Fiona pulls away to build her own life, the family begins to resent her for not stepping in every time there's a crisis.
I try to protect my investment. I try to take one tiny little step up the economic ladder, and my own brother tries to pull me back down.
She is criticized no matter what she does. When she sacrifices herself, they depend on her. When she focuses on her own growth, they accuse her of abandoning them. The tension with Lip, Debbie, and Ian escalates, and the emotional distance between Fiona and the family become a defining feature of these seasons.
I got Max Whitford stalking me for $25K, or else I lose my entire $100K investment.
Unfortunately, that high doesn't last forever, as she experiences her second downfall in season 9. It all starts when a high-risk investment she made goes bad, leaving her bankrupt as she is forced to sell her remaining assets, which sends her back to square zero. At the same time, her relationship with an Irish carpenter named Ford goes to shit. Tell me why there is always a man at the scene of the crime.
I thought we were ready to take this relationship to the next level.
I just didn't realize that would be so expensive.
Well, to get ahead in life, you have to...
Some flirtation with Ford from season 8 turns into a serious relationship in this season, with her believing she's finally found a partner who fits the stability she's been building. When she discovers he's secretly married with a child, the emotional blow triggers a relapse into drinking. This one really hurt because he's the one who was pushing for them to be serious, to buy a place together and to build a real future, all the while he had his own family.
Oh, I'm such a f***ing idiot.
Fiona, wait. Patty and I are separated.
You didn't look separated to me.
We're getting a divorce.
Why wouldn't you just
tell me that you're married.
As her drinking escalates, she becomes increasingly unreliable. I may be alone in this, but I low-key enjoyed how it played out because it slowly creeps in on her and us, the audience, and we don't really notice until it's kind of like a bit too late. She gets fired from Patsy's Pie after constantly showing up drunk. She isolates herself from the Gallaghers and eventually is forced to move back into the house. It's humiliating for her and reignites old tensions. The final breaking point comes when Lip tries to have her removed from the house because she's messed up his chance to adopt a child he is going to care for.
Didn't help Fiona. The old Fiona would have handled this.
Things are then made worse when she provides the kid who was sponsoring alcohol, essentially helping him relapse.
The kind that sees her drunk at the alibi every morning. The kind that watches her lose her job. You know, then go ahead. All right, buy her a case of vodka. Grab a shovel and help her dig that grave, because that's not a friend.
She stays in denial about this growing problem until she wakes up from a drunken bender in her old apartment building with Frank. And honestly, if waking up in a place with Frank and not knowing where you are isn't a sign that you fucked up, then I don't know what is. Thankfully, she realizes that she's hit rock bottom and takes Lip's suggestion and starts attending AA. Fiona eventually stops drinking and begins to rebuild once more.
I really thought I had a chance.
You do have a chance.
With the help of her old business associate, she catches a lucky break. She is bought out of a high-risk investment for $100,000, which she gives half to the Gallagher household without even being asked.
You should go.
What?
You should get the f*** out. You deserve it. You should go as far away as you can.
After saying some private goodbyes to some siblings and Frank, she decides to leave Chicago. She leaves with no clear destination revealed to the audience, choosing a future that is finally hers and hers alone. And we love to see it. I've always wondered what her life that she's chosen would look like. And if they could actually make a show on that, that'd be great, because I would love to follow up with Fiona, personally.
Take care of him for me, will you?
Now that we've recapped her full life story, I'm going to be responding to the 3 main criticisms I've seen about Fiona. That she loves to play the martyr, that she never takes accountability, and that she sabotages every good relationship she's ever had.
She was never f***ing here! She left! I was 9 and taking care of you.
A common criticism of Fiona is that she loves to play the martyr, that she acts like a victim, abandons the younger kids once she starts building her own life, and only cares about herself while pretending to never put herself first. But when you look at the actual timeline of the show, that criticism just doesn't hold up. If anything, Fiona's entire life is the opposite of self-indulgence. It's a story of sacrifice and carrying burdens no one should have to carry. Fiona didn't choose to become a martyr. It was forced on her. She wasn't a sister, she was a substitute mother, literally the poster child for parentification.
It's about what I did. And you know what? I did a great job.
Parentification is when a child becomes responsible for the emotional or practical care of their parents or siblings. She was essentially forced to sacrifice her childhood to raise them. She didn't wake up one day and decide to become the household savior. Frank and Monica left her no choice. And that's the difference between choosing sacrifice and being trapped by responsibility. I mean, her reaction to Monica's death literally says it all.
Fuck you, Mom.
In the earlier seasons, nearly every decision Fiona makes comes from one place: survival. Not for herself, but for her family. Everything she did, whether it was working multiple jobs or cutting corners with scams and petty theft, it all had a single driving purpose: keeping her siblings fed, sheltered, and safe. She was living in survival mode.
Maybe I'm tired of playing Susie fucking Sunshine all the time, huh?
When people say, well, everyone loved Fiona in the beginning, that's because she never had the luxury of having flaws. She didn't have the time or space to discover who she was or what she wanted. She was living on autopilot, sacrificing everything to keep her family alive. Her story wasn't just dramatic, it was tragically recognizable. If she really loved playing the martyr, she would have clung to that control forever, but she didn't. She stepped back, even when it cost her relationship and identity, because she knew she couldn't keep living in crisis mode forever. That isn't martyrdom, it's growth.
Time's passed and things have changed. Most of us are grown-ups now, or at least pretending to be.
When people say she abandoned the younger kids, they ignore a huge detail. By that time, Debbie, Carl, and Ian weren't helpless toddlers anymore. They were old enough to demand independence and were actively rejecting her authority. Debbie got pregnant after Fiona begged her not to. Carl was involved in gangs and crime long before Fiona stopped trying to intervene. Ian was already holding himself up as an adult and refused Fiona's guidance years before she stopped offering it. Fiona wasn't the one who walked away first. They pushed her out because they wanted to be treated like adults, and she simply obliged. And could you blame her?
God, you are disgusting. You're a horrible human being.
Then, add in the fact that Lip and the others were being so ungrateful for everything she had done for them, painting her as a villain for taking care of them, and undermining her talent beyond the home. That was a wake-up call for her to think about herself and her future, and I was here for it.
You're almost 9. You're gonna have to start pulling your weight.
That's right, and get a real job, not just dipping into the collection plate at St. Tim's.
Asking them to pay their fair share may have been harsh in our world, but that's the reality of theirs. The criticism usually boils down to this moment. Fiona stopped sacrificing everything for the family, so she must have become selfish. But here's the reality. Fiona never stopped supporting the household, even when she was pursuing her own goals. Even while investing in the laundromat and apartment building, she was still paying bills, funding groceries, keeping the roof over everyone's head, and doing emotional labor and conflict mediation, just not as much, which in my opinion is completely fair. She didn't abandon the family to go do her own thing. She just gave them the space to live their lives while she tried to do the same.
Because I have a plan for my life. And I can't do it if I'm getting a call every 5 minutes about one of you.
And her claim that she never put herself first, it was true for almost the entire series. The first time she tried to choose herself, not a boyfriend, not a child, not a fire to put out, she was suddenly labelled as selfish. That double standard is the result of her role, not her personality. The Gallagher family and many viewers only considered her good when she was suffering for everyone else. Why is Fiona only allowed to be considered a good person when she has nothing of her own?
I come from trash, just like everybody else in this neighborhood. I raised 5 kids by myself. Siblings, not mine. And did I get any thanks for it? No.
She cared for those kids for a decade. She missed out on adolescence, education, career development, and personal freedom. She didn't get to grow up because she was busy raising everyone else. When she finally tried to have a life of her own, she wasn't betraying the family. She was doing exactly what every other Gallagher was encouraged to do: become their own person.
Is alcoholism genetic?
It's the nurture part of nature and nurture. All about the environment you grow up in.
Oh, that's very encouraging. Jesus, is this family ever gonna catch a break?
A lot of people say Fiona never takes accountability, that she hides behind being a Gallagher or being from the South Side instead of owning her mistakes. And yes, she does reference her upbringing and her environments a lot. But the way I see it, she's not using it as an excuse. She's using it as context. And that's the huge difference. Fiona's past explains why she does what she does, but it doesn't erase her responsibility. Her entire childhood was stolen from her. Every instinct she had, whether it was grabbing cash in the moment it was needed, bending the rules, or making impulsive decisions, comes from years of survival. That history, of course, shaped her impulses, her mistakes, and the times she lashed out or sabotaged herself. It doesn't erase her mistakes. It doesn't mean she's above reproach, but it does explain why she reacts the way she does. That's a difference critics often miss. Acknowledging her own limitations and how trauma shaped her doesn't mean she isn't accountable. It means she's being honest about the why behind her behavior.
I'm not asking for your pity or your admiration.
And contrary to the claim that she never takes accountability, Fiona actually does, just not in the neat, socially acceptable way some expect. She doesn't sit down and give heartfelt speeches or write apologies for every mishap. Her accountability is quiet, more complicated, and rooted in action. When she messes up, she picks herself back up. She gets another job. She takes the legal consequences for her mistakes. She works on repairing the relationships she's damaged, and she supports her siblings despite everything. Her life is full of consequences, most she didn't even ask for, but she still bears it, and that is a form of accountability. Trauma provides context, yes, but it doesn't absorb her, and she rarely avoids responsibility. When she loses her job, faces jail, or has to sell a property, she endures it, she learns from it, and continues forward. Sure, she takes a minute to deal with it, and it might not be in the healthiest way that we'd like to see, but she's only human.
You're not perfect, Fiona. None of us are.
Calling her behavior abhorrent without context is just unfair. Fiona isn't perfect. She's impulsive. She sabotages herself. She hurts people she loves. These are not signs of immorality. These are signs of a human being who was never taught how to navigate life without constant chaos. The moments where she seems abhorrent are moments where she's overwhelmed, exhausted, and figuring things out the hard way, often while putting others first. Her trauma doesn't excuse her behavior, but it explains why they happen. And when you watch her arc closely, you see that she takes that responsibility in the ways she can.
It was me, Lip. Not Frank. Not Monica. Not nature, not nurture. It's all me. 23. Can't be about how much they screwed us up anymore.
To call her selfish or to blame her for acting human is to ignore the reality of what she's carried her entire life. Fiona Gallagher is not perfect, but she is accountable in her own way.
Do you feel more alive in the midst of a crisis? Mm-hmm. Are you uneasy when your life is going smoothly? Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I've got to give the girl is that when she loves wholeheartedly. She puts her whole chest into it. She pours her all into relationships, and she isn't afraid to be vulnerable. And I never thought I'd have to say this about anyone, but she needed to stop. She just had terrible radar for men, just didn't know how to pick them.
I'm probably biased. You deserve better than him.
Looking at her history with Jimmy, Steve, Mike, Gus, and Sean, on the surface, it's easy to argue that she sabotages all her relationships. But when you examine why she acted the way she did, it becomes clear that what looks like sabotage is really self-protection shaped by trauma. It's wild to me that people expect someone like her to have the right tools to automatically navigate a healthy relationship without any trial and error. Like many of us, our relationship with our parents influence how we navigate romantic relationships. So yes, Fiona's romantic life was turbulent, and some may see her as selfish and reckless, but her patterns are consistent with psychology of someone who grew up in extreme chaos. She exhibits a disorganized attachment style, oscillating between craving stability and being drawn to danger, intensity, and unpredictability, all of which she experienced in her childhood. Fiona grew up in a household where love was unreliable at best. Her parents were absent, addicted, and chaotic. From a young age, she learned the hard truth. The people you love most will hurt you, leave you, and let you down. This is so painfully seen in season 2, when Monica blows back into town and Fiona, against her better judgment, believes that things would be different.
What did you think was gonna happen, Fiona?
Thought it might be different this time.
Well, how'd that Kool-Aid taste going down?
With Jimmy Steve, he was exciting and dangerous, everything Fiona associated with thrill and love in her formative years. Notice how she wasn't that into him until she learned he stole cars. She was drawn to him because he represented escape and excitement. Him being unreliable, sometimes deceitful, and chaotic mirrored her upbringing. And it didn't work because as Fiona got older, she wanted security and stability, but Steve thrived in instability. Her desire to trust and depend on him clashed with his unwillingness to be reliable. We saw her sometimes overcompensate, trying to hold that relationship together.
It's not who I am anymore. I used to like the danger, the not knowing who you were, the bad boy.
This early relationship shows the magnetic pull of familiar chaos, Fiona being drawn to what feels emotionally normal for her, even if it wasn't healthy. It was a relationship that she didn't sabotage.
I hold down a job. I look after my family. Care about telling the truth. I'm sorry, those aren't selling points.
We saw her growth and longing for stability in her next relationship with Mike, who was the complete opposite of Steve. He was steady, responsible, and genuinely caring. He offered Fiona her first taste of normalcy, a job, a future, and a predictable relationship. And that's why it was doomed. Because this stability, though she craved it, was alien to her. She didn't know how to exist in a life without constant crisis or responsibility. When someone like Mike offers stability, her fear of loss and betrayal sometimes manifests as impulsive mistakes. That's why she often made decisions that looked like sabotage.
We're taking this to our graves. This did not happen.
Oh, yes, it did. And it's gonna happen again. Very soon. Addict.
When Fiona cheated with Robbie, who was reckless and self-destructive, she didn't do it to explicitly hurt Mike. She did it because familiar chaos feels safe. She kept going back to Robbie because it was easier to blow things up. It was her trauma saying, leave before you're hurt. It's a flawed coping mechanism, yes, but it's human and it's understandable given her history. Her pattern here is classic for trauma survivors. The fear of being hurt instability drives what looks like self-sabotage because chaos feels safer psychologically than predictability.
What do you want?
Well, I wanted a wife who wasn't a lying, cheating sack of shit.
With Gus, it was impulsive and exciting in a different way. He was a musician with a free-spirited lifestyle. She was seeking love and stability on her own terms. It was her attempt at creating her own version of normalcy, not too foreign from what she's known, but less chaotic than what she's experienced. But unfortunately, not having done the inner work needed to sustain a healthy relationship, she found herself being drawn to Sean and his drama.
It's just, you're a chaos junkie, Fiona, and I'm a junkie, so I love chaos.
Again, not excusing it, I'm just explaining it, because Sean was the embodiment of excitement and danger that Fiona unconsciously craves. Unlike Gus, he triggered the emotional intensity she associated with love and connection. He represented the pole of her childhood chaos, the emotional highs and lows she subconsciously equates with intimacy. Her cheating again is a reflection of her inner tug-of-war between stability and the life patterns that feel emotionally home. It's another example of her attempting to balance the desire for normalcy with this ingrained trauma-driven impulses.
It's with you because it's true. You did ghost him. You never ended it. You never gave him back his ring.
Now, I'm not going to get carried away defending Fiona here because she was definitely moving a bit too mad. Like, she didn't even end the relationship or the marriage, properly. She basically ghosted him, which is insane. And in some ways, she does get her karma. When Sean's addiction is revealed, the relationship collapses, leaving her just exhausted, but also offering her lessons in boundaries and self-preservation. It's just a shame that her next relationship with Ford, he also did her so dirty. And then when Sean comes back, she thinks he's coming to apologize and try and make it work, but she's basically just her step in his recovery, which must have stung. She just couldn't catch a break.
My wife and I came back so I could make amends. Couldn't really move forward without...
Am I a f***ing step in your rehab?
Oh well. Karma's a bitch.
Across all these relationships, Fiona constantly exhibits three things: attraction to intensity or chaos, mirroring her childhood experiences, a fear of stability and vulnerability, causing her to sabotage relationships that offer safety because they feel unfamiliar, and self-protection disguised as recklessness, making choices that seem selfish but are often unconscious strategies to manage trauma. Her romantic life is not evidence that she is a bad person or manipulative. It's evidence that she's human, deeply wounded, and navigating intimacy without a roadmap.
What the hell are you doing? Back up, Liam! You ruined love for me! I'll be alone the rest of my life!
That's true!
I love the scene where Debbie beats the shit out of Frank for ruining love for her, because unfortunately, that is the case. Every misstep is constant with someone who was forced to survive before she could learn to live and love safely.
Get up. Dad, get up. Get up!
Now, this is the most important part of the conversation, and it really grinds my gears. Too many times I've seen people go after Fiona whilst simultaneously forgiving, or even celebrating Frank. If you guys could see me, my eye is literally twitching right now. That's the most frustrating part of the anti-Fiona arguments for me. And I just can't, I won't hear it. I'm sorry, I won't, no. This dynamic exposes a devastating double standards we impose on women, especially eldest daughters in our society. People seem to easily forgive this grown-ass man who abandoned and actively harmed his kids. Because his baseline is 0, every time he doesn't physically endanger them or steal their assets, it's seen as a minor surprising triumph, a moment of Frank being Frank. People accept his actions because he's a consistent comedic villain, so the expectation for him is simple. Frank will be selfish and destructive.
And my father's an alcoholic and an addict. He takes what he pleases and he offers nothing.
Yet, they condemn Fiona, a young woman who sacrificed her childhood to raise those children alone. Fiona is held to an impossible standard of perpetual selflessness. Her baseline is superhuman. She had to be the provider, the protector, the emotional anchor, and the bill payer, all before age 25.
You should spend less time blaming her and more thanking her.
For what?
For what? It's tough raising 6 kids by yourself.
She performed the role of a parent with no co-parent, no support system, and no training. Like when Fiona finally starts to pursue her own life, like investing in property, or simply having no strings attached sex, after being heartbroken time and time again, she is immediately judged. But when Frank steals from the squirrel fund, it's accepted as typical shameless plot fodder. When Fiona makes a reckless business decision, or even goes on a drinking bender after years of sobriety, it's treated as a moral failure and proof that she's just like Frank. The slightest slip up from Fiona is magnified because she is the pillar. When that pillar cracks, the perceived stability of the family and the viewer's comfort is threatened. And no, let her breathe. She's literally just a girl, okay? This leads to the most important question I have to ask about her character. Why is Fiona only considered good when she's suffering? Time and time again, it seems like the audience and the other characters only truly value Fiona when she's sacrificing her own well-being for the family. As long as she's working several jobs and putting her dreams on hold, she is the heroic martyr. The second she prioritizes her own mental health, financial independence, or even romantic happiness over her siblings' immediate needs, she is recasted as the villain, or even worse, selfish. This reaction reflects a deeply ingrained societal belief that women, especially caregivers, are not allowed to be imperfect, and that their value is tied directly to the ability to endure pain for others. Fiona's journey highlights that for many, a woman's true goodness is measured by the size of her self-sacrifice. And yes, she developed a drinking problem at the lowest point in her life. Yes, she was coping, but she continued to pick herself up and put her life back together again. And the same just can't be said about Frank. And to make matters worse, in season 8, Frank shows he is actually capable of being a responsible adult, of holding down the job, of taking care of Liam. All these years, he just abandoned his responsibility because he felt like it and he couldn't be asked.
I'm going to parent him the way I should have been parenting all along, right, son?
This double standard is not about good writing or bad writing. It's a reflection of how viewers judge women in power versus men who shrink responsibility. Fiona was never allowed to be a flawed human being. She had to be the saint, and when she inevitably failed at sainthood, the condemnation is swift and unforgiving, and it's just not fair.
That Emmy was going to leave, so that was really solidified at the beginning of this season, so John Wells and the writers were scrambling to redo the ending of the thing.
I have some really mixed feelings about Fiona leaving the show in season 9. On one hand, from a character perspective, it was exactly what she needed. By that point, she was mentally exhausted, worn down and running on fumes. Getting that settlement money wasn't just a plot twist, it was a lifeline. It gave her the chance to finally save herself after a lifetime of saving everyone else. And honestly, she deserved that. She earned that. At that stage, her siblings were adults who could step into their own responsibilities, and her choosing to split the money with them showed that she wasn't abandoning them, she was equipping them. But, on the other hand, the way it played out just didn't feel like Fiona Gallagher. No calls, no texts, no mention of her after she left. No, I don't buy it. I'm sorry. Fiona has always been the person to look back even when she shouldn't. She's the one who stays, who sacrifices, who makes sure every loose end is tied before she even moves a muscle. So her leaving, especially leaving Liam, who was still very young, felt off. In the later seasons, he's just wandering around doing whatever, and no one really steps up the way Fiona did.
Who's my legal guardian?
I don't know. Why? Did you get arrested?
No. But if I do have one, it makes it harder for me to find a place to live.
Look, I don't have time for this shit right now. We'll talk about it later, okay?
Some people may argue that she gave up on being a mom in season 7. And yes, she set boundaries, but that's not the same thing as just stopping caring. After everything she went through fighting for guardianship of the kids, it was strange to see her just walk away and literally never look back.
All right, well, you're not going anywhere without a goodbye party, all right?
No.
Yes.
And even her exit felt rushed. No proper goodbye with the family, not even with Kev and V, the two people she was closest to outside her siblings. It almost felt like she was quietly ushered out the side door, rather than being given the send-off she earned. I'm personally inclined to think there was some stuff going on behind the scenes, because otherwise it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And from the show's perspective, her departure was a massive loss. You could feel her absence instantly. The tone shifted, the dynamic shifted, and the last seasons just didn't have the same emotional backbone. I don't think the show became unwatchable like many say, but it definitely wasn't the same.
It's got to be emotional at the end of something like that.
It's really complicated. I wish her well. I understand why she's moving on.
When you look at what was happening behind the scenes, things do start to make some sense. Reportedly, Emmy Rossum, the actress who played Fiona, was being paid significantly less than William H. Macy, who played Frank, despite both being contractually billed as equal leads. According to Variety, she asked not only for equal pay, but for back pay to compensate years of underpayments, and negotiations fell apart. And honestly, good for her. She carried the show and deserved the biggest paycheck in the room. It's wild that she had to fight for something that should have been obvious, but alas. The underpayments of female leads in TV is definitely something, because even the fact that Nina Dobrev wasn't paid as much as her male co-star or male leads in The Vampire Diaries is just mind-boggling. She was reportedly supposed to return for a cameo in the final season, but COVID made it impossible, which really is a shame, because ending the show without Fiona felt like ending a family story without his mother. It just didn't feel right, and I'm sure I'm not alone in feeling that way. Fiona held that entire family together, and once she was gone, you can literally watch both the show and the Gallagher family start to crumble. I was honestly shocked they went on for 2 more seasons without her. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad. There were still some storylines worth watching. Personally, I stayed because I needed to see the end of Mickey and Ian's love story, which, by the way, I'm working on a video about, and I can't wait for you guys to see it because I just love them. Oh my gosh, I love them.
I miss you.
You say it again, I'll rip your tongue out of your head. Take your hand off the glass.
But no matter how you look at it, story-wise or emotionally, Fiona's exit marks the beginning of the end, because when she walked away, a huge piece of Shameless walked away with her. Fiona Gallagher wasn't perfect, nor did she have to be. She was the story of a girl who held everyone else's world together while hers was falling apart. She was the story of a survivor, learning very slowly and very painfully that survival isn't the same as living. She was messy, flawed, emotional, reactive, loving, loyal, and unapologetically human. And that's why she resonates with so many people who grew up like her. Fiona's journey tells a hard truth that sometimes the hardest thing you can do is let go of the identity pain gave you and build a life that no one ever prepared you for. That's not selfish, that's growth, that's healing, and that's why Fiona deserved better from the world she grew up in and from viewers who judged her so harshly without ever carrying her weight. What are your thoughts on Fiona Gallagher? I would love to know and discuss her in the comments, so if you have any thoughts on her, do let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's all for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, don't forget to like if you did and subscribe for more videos like this. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified when I drop a new video. But yeah, that's all for today. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!